Hello folks, well I've just got back from a lovely little break in Scotland, Highlands, near Oban, and good drive up, good drive back. At the end of the video I may add some little boring driving footage, we had a little bit of snow, etc. But today's job, or I'm going to start doing it, let's put it that way, is we're going to hoist the front of the Aprilia up in the air, just enough to get the front wheel off. And I'm going to do fork seals. I've just watched a pair of Italian guys do it, and it looks, compared to a normal fork, it looks quite simple. So you know it's not going to be, because I'm doing it. But basically with this is called a cartridge fork. It's an upside downy on the Aprilia, and basically you loosen this cap, which is a 28mm I think. You loosen that, pre-loosen it, obviously wheel off and all that lot, drop the fork out, and then underneath this cap is the damper rod, which holds everything together. And by the looks of it, it's like a big valve collet that holds everything in. So you push it in against the vise, grab the collets out, and then the fork should split. That's the theory. I'm tempted just to crack on with it and not film an awful lot of it, because it does take like 4 times as long. But I'm going to take my time, because one thing I don't want to do, it's the fork leg next to the disc brake that's leaking. So with the wind going past, I don't want the fork oil on the brake, and if the fork oil gets on all the new brake rubbers and stuff like that, it's going to wreck them. So yes, that's what I'm going to do. So I better get on and do it then. And I'll bring you back whenever I'm doing something, probably. Yeah. Well, hello. I suppose I could do sort of a how-to, even though I'm learning as I go. But the first thing we've got to do is loosen the fork top caps, which is 28mm. Mine were loose, so you've only just got to get them started. And the next thing, remove the mudguard, and obviously take the bolts out for the brake caliper, hang the brake caliper up. This area is great, just use a big kibite. 2 bolts out this side, the front bolt out, the rear bolt out that holds the brake hose, and then this section, as you can see, will not come past the fork basically, but it does now drop from the main mudguard. So if you do the same again the other side, these 2 bolts and the bottom 2 bolts, the top of the mudguard will then separate, and these parts are separate, and then reassemble as you've took apart basically. Oh, you can see got a little bit of scoring, what looks like scoring on there. It's smooth though, can't feel it with my fingers. Nice. So yeah, that's the first stage. Right, mudguard removed, and you can now see the leakage on the fork. Look, So yes, brake caliper hung, well hung. So now what we've got to do is I'm going to raise the front of the bike, and I'm going to use the overbeam and stick a ratchet strap around the handlebars. It's literally just to get the wheel off the ground. It doesn't have to go 8 foot into the ground. Into the air, dickhead. And then what we need to do then is undo these 2 pinch bolts, and then that's the axle bolt, and then we can pull the axle out and drop the wheel. Nice. Nice. Speedo drive this side, 1 little spacer that side. There we go, I think that's now loose, and I can now pull the axle out. Okay, that's 1 fork dropped. Top fork clamps, these are I believe 50 Newton meters, and the bottom triple clamps are the same. They take a number 6. I use my wearers. Now I've seen this done where somebody's removed the whole of the front cowl just to get access to everything. Yeah, that's fine to do, but you can actually get up in there. You can get up in with one of these, and then all I did, I put a box spanner on the end just to give me a little bit more torquage. They've not got to be super gorilla tight. Like I say, 50 newton meters isn't that much, but there's one out now, so now I'm going to have to investigate how to undo it. Basically, take this top cap off, and then there should, on the damper rod, is a cartridge basically with all your gubbins on, and it looks like, I think you've got to like shove it in the vise a bit to expose the collets. Take the collets out and the whole thing should just split after you've drained it, of course. This type of fork takes a lot of draining as well. You need to get the damper rod and over a drain pan, and quite often it helps just to add a little bit of fresh oil or spray some lubricant or something in there and do it. But yeah, best to use fork oil really. That's the point. Have I got any bloody fork oil before I've started this job? I think that's engine oil. Ooh, bollocks. That's alright. If I've got no fork, I'm sure I've got some fork oil, to be quite honest. It's probably in the other shed. Yes, bloody schoolboy error as usual. Okay, we've unscrewed the top, which was dead easy. There's no spring pressure on it, and you can see just in there like the spring collets. So what we need to do now is clamp this, push the bottom of the leg up to expose the collets, and we should be able to get them off. Well folks, typically the camera has run out of battery. Anyway, we've got the fork split. One half is still draining. You have to give the old damper rod a good and I've sprayed some brake clean in there and gave it a wiggle as well, and a load more oil's come out. Right, this is the sunction part, what would be the sunction part on a normal motorbike. Sorry, not the sunction, the fork leg. Dickhead. As you can see, what we've got to do now, and it's going to be impossible to do it while filming on the phone, but we've got a little snap ring just there. That's got to come out. That secures the seal. Then under the seal is a spacing washer. And once the little snap ring's out, it's only like a little spring clippy thing. Those should just pry them out gently. But I'm having to hold the camera as well. So I'll pop those out and then we'll give the tube a clean. Yes, I'll go and show you the grommets. Hello. So these are your fork internals. You've got a little tapered rod with the taper on the end. That goes in first. You've got the old spacer tube, and then you've got the springage. And right at the top, holding everything together, is this little collar. And this little collar is held onto the damper rod by these little collets. And basically, I've just done a right bugger of a job getting that off, because, I mean, in theory, I watched the guys do it. See, there's two guys doing it in the other video, and all they did was put that against the vise, push, and it gives enough room to get these collets out. And I even had the fork leg on a jack stand and trapped the collet under here. Obviously it was wider, to try and do it, and it didn't do it. And I thought, well, I almost did it by hand. So what I ended up doing was actually resting the fork here, putting a little screw at the end of the damper rod, clamping the screw into the vise, and then what I did is I got a little pry bar and a screwdriver, and just evenly either side just went, and it went easy as you like. They fell out, so I should be able to put them back in okay. Put some grease on them and it helps make them stick. So there's the parts all out. That's the spacer washer, which goes in first. The seal, this is the old one. The new one there from Pyramid Parts comes with a seal buddy tool and some assemblage greasage. And then holding it all together is the little snap ring. Right, as you can see in the tube, there is a little bit of damage, but it's not too bad. I can smooth that out. I think somebody's tried to get an old seal out at some point and they've, you know, gone a bit wank. There is very, very slight corrosion on the sealing surface, but Mr. Dremel is there, so Mr. Dremel will polish that up before it all goes back together. But now I've got the knack of getting that off, I hope I've got the effing knack of getting it back on. It should be easy enough. There's not a massive amount of pressure needed. It's just that you need an equal amount of pressure on the collar. But I might even try the jack method to reassemble it, because in theory it should go back easier. Stop there. Bloody amateur mistake. Of course, I've got the fork stripped and ready for oil, and guess what I forgot to pick up? That's right, fork oil. What an utter Right folks, this is going to be interesting, because I'm trying to charge the camera at the same time as filming, and I can't see bugger all, so the chance of you lot seeing bugger all is quite high. Anyway, the way I got the collets out before, they are going to drop on the floor, is the trick is I've put a little screw in the top. There is a little threaded hole, so I've put a screw in. I'm holding the screw in the vise, and what that does is keep the damper rod secure, because we need to move this collar back and get the collets out. So I'm just going to show you how I did it on my own. It's a lot easier with two people, because with two people you can open a vise up or something and get somebody to push this against the vise and then get them out. The way I'm going to do it though, this is probably going to go hilariously wrong because I'm filming, is to do it like this, but I just want to get some of the excess oil and stuff out. I've drained most of the oil, but the way to drain it properly is to actually split this and then start giving this damper rod a right good pumping. So what I did was put a small pry bar this side, like this, to pry on that edge, and then just give it a bit of a wiggle on the other edge with the largest screwdriver. So hopefully I'm going to repeat that now. Getting the collets in is actually easier. So I'm getting both there, and hopefully we don't slip. It's getting it initially moving that's the hard bit. There we go. There we go. And that's one outlook. And on the floor. And there goes the other one. But you can now see the groove. You can't see the groove that it sits on because it's just slipped. Anyway, they're down on the floor, they're easy enough, and they're big enough to find. So yes. Ideally, if I had a bigger bench and this was all arranged differently, I'd have something underneath to catch, but that's now off. That's the odd job, basically. Both collets found. They haven't gone far, they've literally just dropped straight down, and they're quite weighty, so they don't tend to ping away. Right, all this will be cleaned up with brake clean, etc. And a tip to put them back is to cover them in grease. Anyway, we can now release this end, because that is about all the spring pressure there is. That's a little screw I put on the end. Let's take that out. You don't have to, you can do it without it. So you got your end cap. Get off me bottom. I just caught my bottom on my crowbar. So you've got the end cap, you've got the spacer tube, you've got an internal tube, tapered end down when you put it back in, and then you've got your spring. And now the two components, basically the top half and the bottom half, will now just split, but what I'm going to do is go outside and just drain it a little bit more. Now there's no obstruction from the spring, etc. So this is the fork tube, and you know it's a 1999, actually registered in 2000 bike, so yes, we expect, you know, the odd mark and stuff basically, but this is a good time to just give these, I'm just using brake clean. just a wipe really. And then if we want to go mad on the cleaning, we can do at a later date. But the important thing is now to get the new seals in. Basically the hardest part of the job is to get those collets out. But as long as you apply equal pressure to either side of the collar so it comes off square, it's quite a snug fit onto the damper rod. But as long as you sort of go square, you'll get at them. Fitting them, I didn't have many problems on the other one. I covered them in fitment grease so they stuck basically, and then I did manage just all on my own like to get them in. And once they're in, it's a bit like a valve collet, although these aren't angled, they aren't chamfered or anything like that. Ooh, big words. So as soon as you get them in this bowl, a little tap with a screwdriver and they'll seat, and they'll seat quite sharpish. So basically what we're going to do now is stage 2 is to get the old dust cover off and what have you. There's no telling how many times in this bike's life these seals have been done, but I can almost guarantee you it's more than once. Although it is a fairly low mileage bike, it depends if anybody who's owned it has been a bit of a wheelie merchant or something like that. Anything that knackers like head bearings and stuff will also knacker fork seals. If you've ever been off road, got dirt behind it, there was actually a fair bit of water in the other fork. This fork wasn't leaking, but it's just common sense to do them both. While you're there, you've got the front end of the bike apart, you may as well. I'm making a right at you this. Yes, there's some marks and stuff there. These are quite soft alley. So that's the old dust thing, and then inside we've got the snap ring and the seal. This one's cleaner than the other one, and the way I do the snap ring is there's 2 edges on it basically, and I've just noticed this is slightly deformed. Yeah, we should be able to sort that out. It's not by much. I think what's happened in the past is somebody's put this in a vise to do it, and it's done it. I can round that out, that's not a problem. And this side wasn't leaking anyway. But the snap ring, you'll have a pointy outy bit and a pointy inny bit. So if you get a screwdriver blade behind the pointy outy bit, you should be able to pop it up. Nice. Now where's the pointy outy bit? And there is a way to fit these back as well. Sometimes it's easy to get a pick behind it and get it started. So all you've got to do is just, when you're not trying to take skin off, is just get it out the groove. It's hard to, the light's not rigged up right, so shit excuse. I know. And a lot of the time it's quite easy to go at the back of the snap ring where there's sometimes a bit of slag, and see if you can get in there. But you know, a little bit of patienting should do it. Ah, that nearly went then. Sometimes the snap rings will be broke and stuff like that, which always makes it a pleasure. There we go. I can get behind it there. I think the tip of this snap ring is actually broke. Yeah, let's have a look at you. Right, I'm going to do this because there's no telling how long it's going to take. Because if one of the ends of the snap ring's broke, it can be quite difficult to get out. And then I'll bring you back. Get. Well, it's all apart. all ready to go back together now. And the easiest way to do it, this has definitely been an advice at some point, it's been mildly mullered. Let's get some grease, grease the seal, grease the outside. Ooh, somebody's out on a rev and rip. Don't forget the little spacer washer, put that in. Seals usually, they aren't too bad to get in. Nice. And the seal. Sometimes the seal spring will come out, and the way to stop that doing it's because I haven't put it in square. And the way to stop it in future is you can pack the groove with grease, and it will help keep the spring in. So that's what I shall do. Didn't have to do it on the other one, but I have seen other people do it. Is just pack this up, and it just stops the seal deforming. Now bear in mind that when you put it in the bike, its natural action is going to wipe that grease away anyway, so don't worry about it. Right. Lovely, lovely. Right. Got to rest it in now. This one's proving, because the top of the fork tube is slightly warped, this one's proving to be a touch more challenging than the other one. Still going in nicely. There we go. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. Yeah, that's going in nice. You don't need a seal driver. Just equal pressure with the fingers usually will get it down. Beautiful. Yes. Oh, yeah, lovely. So the two halves just slide back together. Lovely. Obviously the tube that you've put the seal on, introduce onto this, be really gentle. The grease will help it, but go in as square as possible, and then you can avoid any potential damage to the seals. And then when it's in this state, before you put all the spring and everything back in, put the oil in. These take 470 millilitres of oil, and when you've put 400-ish, 450 odd-ish, get a vernier caliper and measure the oil height. It should be done with a fork compressed like this, and you're looking at 140 millimeters from the top. That is the correct oil height. But reassembly after that is reverse of the procedure, really. So I'm going to put the oil in, and then I'm going to rig it up to put it all back together again with swearing. So that's the collet back in. Just simply holding it with the screw and prying back to move the collar. And a little bit of grease on them, they don't move. So this should be ready now to undo. And this should slide back in lovely. There we go. Fantastic. Take the screw off. Put the top on. These aren't super tight. 20 Newton meters. Nothing like a right way up fork. So we'll just we'll get those down, and then we'll give them their final tighten when they're on the bike. So all in all, once you've got how to get the collets out sussed, quite an easy job. So all in and done, and on the whole, not a bad job. Certainly easier than some right way ups I've done. Certainly easier. You can drain it more thoroughly than I did. I left it for ages to drain. There is obviously a bolt underneath there, and you can drain that and it will drain a bit quicker, but I gave it loads of time to drain, and the guys I watched didn't bother on doing the bolt either, and they're Italian, so they know what they're doing. So yes, so that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this guide on how not to do Aprilia Pegaso fork seals. Hope it was reasonably clear. It's not meant as a how-to or anything, just showing you what I've been up to. So in which case,